Welcome everybody to Events We Like. Today we have a superstar of a guest, Miss Holly Porter of hollyporter.com. And she also has a company called Prosperity Profilers. And her main thing is helping people with prosperity and multiple income streams. And I could say so much about this young lady. I'm super excited because number one, the purpose of this video is to really highlight you for the magazine and for the video expressions to go evergreen, because you have started 9 businesses. They all were successful. You do multiple income streams. And although you are doing prosperity events all over the United States, it would be great to do it throughout the world. You know, the reality is, you know, events come and go, but Holly Porter goes on and on and on and on. So I want to make sure that not only do we highlight some of these great events that you're doing, but there's events that you'll be doing beyond this. We talked a little bit about a cruise ship thing that you're doing and a bunch of other stuff. So what I want to do is get to the intent of the call. Holly Porter is our featured expert for our magazine. And so I just want to before we jump in and before we get into your real background, I just want to give the guests an idea of what topics we're going to cover today. So I had to put my glasses on. Okay. All right, so on the Events We Like magazine, which is what this call is going to be more about, which is the article that everybody will get to read and share with all their friends and family members and anybody entrepreneur, is the headlines we have for this is we're talking about prosperity. And we're also going to be talking about, you know, that prosperity is coming and it's ready to be claimed. People have to claim their share. So we're going to be talking about that and how the world needs us. They need us to be in our brilliance, because, you know, we want to look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. And so the reason for the whole interview with Holly today is to really find the ways to guarantee prosperity with multiple income streams. And so that is what we're doing today, up close with Holly Porter. And I hopefully captured the essence of the call. Let's just jump right in. What got you into this idea of prosperity? What's your background?
Oh, background.
Yeah, a little bit about you.
Well, I've had 9 startup companies, as you mentioned, and they're not necessarily like related. I think the only thing I had that was related was a daycare and a preschool at 2 different times. And I found for me that when I had children and then when I married Scott, we combined 4 more. So I had 8 kids that we raised all, in the same house. And I found though that with my 4 youngest before we got married, that as they grew, I needed to make an income. And those working parents, bless your souls, it's expensive, to get out there and get daycare. And so I opened my own daycare. And so when my children were little, I raised them. And then, as they got into preschool, I did a preschool. And then I had a children's clothing store when I needed to keep them clothed. And just it evolved that way. As, I would say when I had a preschool, I wouldn't have done a daycare mentally. I couldn't have handled that, and vice versa. So it's just time and a place. And people have to realize, you don't have to start. Start somewhere. You don't have to start and look at people and, envy people that are where you want to be. That's not the way it needs to be. Just be where you're at in that moment and start there. But do start. That's the biggest key.
That is great. In every business coaching, consulting, this is what they teach. They always teach where you at, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. What made it possible for you to really understand that whole idea of taking a look at where you're at and where you want to go? Because, you said at a necessity, you were, we do things for our kids, but you did something a little extra special. You did something, you did a lot. You did, because, a lot of people, they don't think outside the box. They don't think, how am I going to bring in money to take care of these kids?
Right.
They go more traditional route. You didn't really go a traditional route. You really did think outside the box.
I have to make every mistake 3 times before I finally figure it out. And it's really just hard work. I'm not going to say it hasn't been. Entrepreneurship is not easy. So if people think, oh, I can just quit my job and go over here and just start something new, I wouldn't recommend that, unless you have a big fat bank account that's going to finance you, because when you're an entrepreneur, it takes, a lot to get there, and there's structures, and so, I do that with business coaching with people, and I love working with people even from the ground up, if they have a little bit of that, in the structure, because obviously coaching's not cheap and you need it. Like, that's probably one of the top 3 things I would say if somebody's thinking about doing a business. If they don't have a coach, it's going to be a lot more challenging. And especially, interview coaches that have, number one, have their own coach, because you don't want to have a coach that doesn't have a coach, right? Because obviously there's some belief things going on there as well. But, I just think, I don't know if I did anything really far outside of the box that other people do. I just didn't give up. And if something didn't work, I would, I'd hit that wall and I'd back up and I'd pivot and I'd go a different direction. And then when I hit that wall, which sometimes could be fast and sometimes it was after a big, huge financial investment even, but I get out quick. And so when you see that that's happening, make those decisions, quickly, because when I look back at different decisions I've made over the different, businesses I've had, and just in my life, the ones that I lingered and just thought it's going to get better, sometimes, it did, but if it lingers very long, make those decisions and then don't look back, because once those decisions are made, it doesn't matter what you should have, would have, and could have done. It's where you're at now. So just keep moving forward and quit dwelling on the past, quit talking about the past, quit being in the past, because all that doesn't matter anymore. It's the past.
That's the ugly P. We don't want to be around. Yeah. Well, prosperity is so positive. It's got that pro word in it. And what gave you the idea of taking what you knew and equating it to prosperity? I mean, there's the obvious, but you took it to a whole different level that I find fascinating.
Well, that didn't come without a struggle in itself, because people that know me, money and power isn't what my motivators are. People are. There's your other key.
There you go.
And relationships. And so, I've ran for political office, and that's a hard thing to do and win if you're not money and power motivated. So when I came up with the prosperity to rebrand my company and move forward on some things, I was looking, I always had so many different hands in things, and how many times do us busy entrepreneurs hear, if you just focus on one thing, and I swear, if I was going to hear that again, I might have punched the next person that said it in the face. Like, I was that frustrated with it, because no, that might work for you, but that didn't work and won't work for me. And so it was like, what can I do with all these things that I have my hands in and fit them under one umbrella? And that's where prosperity, the name, came from. And I struggled with it because, to me, I felt in the beginning, it was all about money. Prosperity, oh, it's all about money. And as I really, dissected the word and really, dug a little deeper, you can be prosperous in a lot of things. It doesn't have to be about money. I was making it about money. And so I had to get rid of that belief that, I can be prosperous in love, in friendships, in life, and I didn't need it all to be about money. And so when I landed on that and really had that word sink in, I knew that was it, and it's felt right. And it's been a little over a year now that I rebranded to my company, and we did Prosperity Profilers. That's actually my LLC, and that has its own feel. And then I just brand, Prosperity. I have the event called Prosperity. I have my podcasting called Prosperity Profilers Podcast. So I just rebranded everything using that name, and it feels right. And now when someone says, you still have your hands in, 10 things, if sometimes they say that, and it's like, what can they say? I'm rebranded to Prosperity. It just fits. And so I feel like I can hold my head a little higher and be a little stronger and not let that chatter in my head say, oh, you're spread out too thin, and oh, you can't do anything right because you're not focusing on that one thing. And it's like, no, I'll never do that. And so for me, that's what works. For someone else, I do personality profiling, so for someone else that's not that type of a personality like me, that's not going to work for them. They can't focus on that. They're not good multitaskers. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did. And what I think is even more powerful, because, I always say more powerful. It sounds crazy to say that, but it is powerful because the money word is so ugly, but the prosperity word is so inviting. And when you get the mindset that I am prosperous, that like you have a saying, feel prosperous, be prosperous, look prosperous, that has a whole other energy to it. We always talk about the laws of attraction. And I remember, because I read, we're going to jump into this a little bit, but I remember reading Think and Grow Rich, and I remember going to Vegas, and I remember winning a lot of money, and we were chanting. It was just funny. It was a joke because I'm a clown. But we were like, I see the money, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Well, that's a prosperous kind of word power. And miraculously, we ended up winning that year like $13,000, about $2,000 every casino we went to. We hit something, and we couldn't believe it. But it was because our mind was so focused on the positive of I see the money, ka-ching, 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 that we didn't realize that we had actually made it possible for us to step into the belief that we would be, in our case, prosperous without that word. And that's what I love about your word is people do try to say that, we're scattered because we have so many ambitious, like, I think Allie Brown said a few years ago, she's supposed to focus on her coaching business. And then someone said, let's go make jewelry in Tahiti, So she was like ready to go make jewelry in Tahiti. Well, that might be a little bit sounding a little scattered, But in your case, and in a lot of people's cases, if you have that umbrella of your organization and you are about multiple income streams, I don't think that's scattered. I think that's a parking lot of items, and each income stream has its own drivers and its own focus. And one of the things I did like that you said a few years ago was you have to find your cash cow first. Absolutely. Because if you don't have a credit line and you don't have, a sponsor, financial backer, then you start a business, you're going into poverty, you can't pay your bills, and you might as well go get a job, stack the cash. And then when you're ready to invest in a coach and invest in your business, then it's go time. And so I really appreciated the fact that you weren't saying you can't have multiple income streams, and don't let people pick on you for being scattered because you had the idea to have multiple income streams. But at least make sure that when you start, you're focused on one cash cow to sustain you. That's what I respect about you in having that. Are you being scattered? Are you being focused on your cash cow? And that prosperity, if you can really believe that you're prosperous in everything you do, I think the money does come in. And what you're supposed to do will fall into place. That's what I believe. So that's why I really appreciate, I don't think anybody's closing the gap on prosperity. That is what you actually said to me, that you actually have a program that closes the gap to prosperity. And nobody is talking about this. And that is why you blow me away, because it's real.
Well, I remember, a story when I was, I still am a real estate broker, aren't we always?
Multiple industries.
I have lots of licenses. I just keep adding. But when I was doing real estate a lot full time years ago, my broker had the number 1 and the number 4 agents in his office in the nation, even though we weren't in that big of a city. And he came to me and he said, if you would just focus on real estate, you would be my number 1 agent, which was a huge compliment, and I looked him right in the eyes and I said, you're right. I would be. And I wouldn't wake up happy every morning. My real estate broker pulled me aside and said, and I just mentioned he had the number 1 and the number 4 agent in his office in the nation, which was huge because we weren't in that big of a town. And he just pulled me in his office and he said, you'd be my number 1 agent if you just focused on real estate, which was a big compliment because of what he had going on, right?
Right.
And I just looked him right in the eyes and said, Yeah, I would be. I know I would be. And I wouldn't wake up happy every morning because I knew that that focusing on just that wouldn't make me happy. And to me, being happy is way more important than being a millionaire. So, like I
Yeah,
said, money power doesn't motivate me. That's not my motivators. Do I want to make money? Yes. Should I? Could I? Yes. Will I? Yes. Do I? Yes. And
I love that. I think you speak for all women. um,
well, I hope people
okay,
live
I
to
won't say all women because there's probably a few out there, but I think the way we operate is we are looking for happiness.
Mhm.
We're looking for peace of mind. We want to be able to give our kids, what they want and what they need. I don't know that too many of us entrepreneurial women are saying, yeah, I want to be 40 million a year.
Right. Well, who is it that says, who says, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life? Who says that?
Is that Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, or Jim Rohn? I can't remember. It's probably the
Somebody
Bible.
really cool.
I don't know. Who said it?
We need to learn to find more joy,
Yeah.
find the joy in what we do every day. I can't say I've ever had a job or a business that I haven't enjoyed. There might be pieces of it that I didn't, or it was a mean to another end. If I didn't enjoy it, I got out. It was like, I'm done. I had a kids clothing resale store. I was in the middle of a divorce. I had 4 children and I was driving 100 miles a day with them back and forth, living at my parents' bunkhouse, right? And I would take them, we'd be gone like probably about 10 or 11 hours a day. By the time we drove there, the kids went to school there, and then I opened the store, ran it for the day, and then closed it. And I look back and one day I just thought, I'm not happy here anymore. Like the store did okay, it paid its own way, but it was a kids like a resale store. And where I put it was just, I was always above my time. Like I was always I'm an early adapter on most everything I do. So like it was 2 years ahead of its time. 2 years later, if I would have opened it in that city, they just didn't get the concept yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just picked a date and I listed it for sale. And I thought, if it sells, this is the date I'm moving. And if it sells, it sells. And if it doesn't, I'm open for that. I literally packed everything up because it didn't sell. And I moved it all back to Las Vegas. And I literally had no job, no money. I rented this house, with what money I did have. And I was like, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I didn't have work down there. I actually had garage sales every weekend and sold the items I had there just to buy groceries and do the things I needed to do because I'm a survivor. Like, you figure it out. Like, to me, it was more, my sanity was more important than sticking it out. Now, I wouldn't recommend maybe that for everybody. I don't look back and be sorry I did that. But I'll tell you, the next month when rent was due, somebody came in and bought everything I had left for what my rent was.
That works too. When you have that belief that it's going to be okay, even though you don't know how it's going to be okay.
I always have had that belief. I always know you can make more money. You can't replace people, but I can replace my things. And I've been divorced several times, and that's okay. I don't mind if people ask me questions. If there's something or a story I can share with you that'll help you, to make better choices or better decisions, I'm an open book. It's fine, and it's okay. But it's like, there's worse things than divorce. There's worse things than, closing a business down or, quitting your job. It's just get a plan together, because I didn't always have that plan. And so it's hard to if you don't have a plan, it's hard to go as planned.
Right.
Okay? Yeah. So if you don't have
very well put. Yeah.
It's hard to go as planned.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I want to really talk to you about is when people work with you, obviously everyone's unique and they're at a different where you at place. But, you were talking about, look prosperous, feel prosperous, be prosperous. That kind of gave me a little bit of a clue of what it might be like to work with you. But I want to get the real scoop on that. What is it like working with a prosperity profiler coach? What is it like working with Holly Porter? What's the approach to getting that cash cow? Because people come to you at different levels of their business. And then also I want to sidebar, I know this is a lot throwing at you, but I also want to sidebar into your book publishing business, because you have helped hundreds of women become best-selling authors. So a little bit about your approach. Again, look, feel, be. They come to you. What's the starting point? What's it like working with Holly Porter?
Well, let's talk about the look prosperous, feel prosperous, be prosperous is my tag.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, we look at what your business actually looks like now. Okay. Because if you don't know what it looks like now, it's hard to get where you want it to be. Okay.
Right.
And then we set some big goals of where you want it to be. And I work to close the gap. So work backwards to where you are. And it's all about closing that gap. And there's 8 principles, and I'm not going to say what they are on here because you got to come to the event and find out. But I have 8, key elements that I help people with to close the gap. So, you see the prosperity sign, and a lot of times the pictures you see are like a chain, like a link, like this, and they're open. So my infinity sign is gold, number 1, because I'm all about gold. And it's prosperous. And the infinity sign, 8's 8. If you turn it the other way, 8 is a prosperous number. If you don't believe me, go look it up, what it means. And it's all about that. And so the infinity sign means a continuous, flow. Well, if you have a gap in one of those 8 elements, then it breaks it, like the chain, like the link. It breaks it, or it opens it. And so you don't want it to open, because then your flow of prosperity in those 8 elements, we're not talking about just money here. That's the difference. And I have never heard anybody share what I'm going to be sharing, because it was from above, and I know that. So I'm excited, and this is the first time I'm launching this information. So it's just to flow, you have to close the gap to that. And so that's really, in the beginning, you have to look, feel, be. So then feel through it. Part of closing that gap is the feel, and if it's doing this, then it's going to feel right? It's going to flow. Mm-hmm. And then to be, you have to complete those 8 elements, and you have to close the gap to be prosperous. So that's the look, feel, be. And that honestly was already my tag before I rebranded. And now look at it. And I know I was supposed to keep it for a reason, but I couldn't really figure out why. And now I know why. It fits right into my close the gap to prosperity. So thanks for asking that, because I really haven't been able to explain that to anybody yet. And it's great to feel like, it's,
well, that's
like
what everyone wants. They want to figure it out. And close the gap to prosperity is so uniquely you, and yet it so clearly says what we all want. We're all looking to make lots of money, help lots of people, have lots of fun. But you can't do that if you're having broken hearts.
And that's the thing. People don't know those 8 elements that are in there. They don't understand those are the life things, the life balance to the success. And so a lot of times, when you, like, for a long time, I was like, am I a life coach? Am I a business coach? Am I a consultant? Mm-hmm. It's like, da. Well, I'm a prosperity coach, and whatever that takes to get you in your mind, feel prosperous. Okay. Look, feel, be for you. That will be customized to you when you work with me, because I want to make sure everybody doesn't fit in the same box. Everybody has their own style and their own way and their own timing. And honestly, I will say slow pokers, is that a word? I don't want to track those really, because I move very quickly and I need people to move quickly with me. And I'm done banging my head against the wall in so many areas that I've had in the past. It's like, no, I'm not going back there. We're going forward. So let's figure this out. What does it look for you? And let's close your gaps.
The slow pokers, I refer to them as, there's no wine before it's time. Unfortunately, the slow pokers are going to be coach hopping. They're hitting their head against the wall because they're not coachable.
Right.
And that's why things are going slow, because they have too many questions, 1,000 questions, and they can't make a decision. They get stuck, they're trapped, so their mindset is kind of on backwards. So I like this whole idea of being a prosperity coach, because you can say, listen, do you want prosperity, or do you want to do things the way you're doing things, which is the lack of prosperity. So I love the trade. I would much rather be a prosperity coach than a life coach or a business coach. I love the whole thing. I was like, I may have to take that. You should trademark that if you haven't, because I think everyone should be certified as a prosperity coach, because that makes more sense. Mm-hmm. You're teaching people multiple income streams. You're teaching people how to have what they really want and make money doing what they want. And some people think that that's an outrageous concept, like, oh, I want to be a singer. I can't be Britney Spears at 55. Well, you have a completely different market. Why can't you make a living with the market that loves 55-year-olds, So, prosperity coach is brilliant. Absolutely.
Well, that balance between life and business, you need them both. And that's why my 8 elements work, because if all those things are in balance, then it doesn't matter if it's your life or your business. Everything's going to flow because you've closed the gap to the, prosperity. So I'm excited. Like, I'm super excited to just get it out there and show people, that you can have it all. Like, it's us and our chatter in our head that stops us. And trust me, I'm not saying I've got it mastered. Trust me, every single day I need to work on it, because the chatter's in my head too. Like, right? If everybody has the chatter in their head, I don't care what level of success you are in your life, you have stuff that's still coming up telling you. Now, the difference is, who and what are you listening to? Like, what is it? Are you listening to the chatter, and what are you doing about it? And what are you doing to keep your life prosperous as far as personal development? Like, that personal development is what's going to keep that chatter out of your head. Because if you're not doing that for yourself, I'm big on self-care. That's been in the books. I'm all about that, because people need to realize that if you're not at your best, you can't be at your best for everyone else. It's like the airplane mask. What do they say? Put it on you first so you can help others. Okay, focus on your business first. Focus on your life first. Focus on your family first, so that you're going to be good for others.
Right.
Because this stuff's got to come first. Like, and I don't mean that in a selfish or hateful or unkind way. I mean that what is it going to take for you to be at your best? So when you work with these 8 elements that I'm going to share, that I'm not sharing today, though.
You got to go to a prosperity event to find out more about that.
That's the one. Nobody's getting them before. Nobody. Well, except the people that are helping me. But, it's not about being selfish. There's a difference of being selfish and putting yourself first. Okay?
Right.
You get that? And
right.
Some people don't get that. And other judgments are made on people that don't understand that.
Yeah, it was like when the Boundaries books came out, people were a little bit like, I can't, talk to the hand. People didn't understand that people really needed the space. I know that when I am properly rested, watered and fed, people have told me that they have watched me have a spring in my step. And I was like, one of my bosses said to me, which the reason why she hired me is the first day, when I came in, I literally had this hop. It was like this really weird energy, but it was a real springiness. And I think that when we take care of ourselves first, the best parts of ourselves show up. And if you're, like they say, if you're like a mommy zombie, or you're just wore out, you're not going to show up and be the best that you can be going. So why don't we go ahead and have you talk about your event and what people can expect at a prosperity event. as far as learning the tools to become more prosperous?
Okay. Well, when you come to the prosperity event, it's all about meet, motivate, and monetizing you and your business. So the whole event is about personal and business development, because we've been sharing and talking about that this whole time, and it's not because I can't make a decision and decide, do I want to do personal development? Do I want to do business development? I believe they both need to happen, like all the time. I feel like if you're not working on yourself, it's hard to be your best in your business. So that's really the goal for me. I'm all about building the relationships, and I can honestly say most everyone in my life today is I've met at an event.
Absolutely, yeah. And you've seen yourself grow, right, from where you were to where you are now.
100%, well, probably 500%, honestly. But it's so funny because when I go places and I've traveled with these people, and we go to these events all the time. I mean, I love it because it's like, oh, how'd you guys meet? At an event. I mean, and those are the type of people I want to surround me in my world. You've all heard you are the average of the 5 people that you spend your time with.
I'm really excited about my 5 lately, just so you know.
And I've been super intentional with that actually the last couple years, but definitely the last few months, very intentional. It's interesting because Sandra Yonsei with eWomen, she always says, she wants to be the dumbest one in the room. So I don't want to call myself dumb. I want to say though, what she means by that is you're always going to be growing and up leveling if you're hanging out with people who are up leveled. So it's not that I want to be dumb or dumbest in the room. I just want to
the word to the dumbest to the gentle in the room, like Barbara Streisand. She was gentle. She was eager for knowledge.
I always want to be the sponge in the room. I want to just be in there to soak it all up from the right people. That's why I want to be, those people are who I am going to aspire to be like. And so it's interesting because I don't technically have a quiet personality, and I have been very quiet probably the last year for me. And I think that's why, because I'm absorbing, this and this different energy and filling out the prosperity aspects of everything. And it's like, when I go to somewhere, I want to hear what they have to say. I need to shut my mouth and learn. We all do.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, I need to not be the one talking, and I love being the leader, and there are still events and things that I go to. My event, I'll be the leader because it's my event, right? But that doesn't mean I'm not bringing other leaders in and I'm having their genius there and shining, because that's what I'm about. If you know me at all, or if you want to know me, I'm a connector. And I know somebody somewhere for everybody, I think. I mean, rarely does someone ask me if they can connect me to something or somebody that I can't. And I love that because it lights me up when I can connect 2 people together and they can either do business together, have a friendship together. Honestly, I have married 14 people. Proud of it.
So you heard that everybody needs to go to Holly to find their people.
That's when I realized that I was a good connector. This is years ago. And I will say, I was literally a few months
That's ago. That's another whole income stream there, Holly.
I don't do no, I don't do that. I finally got mine figured out after some divorces. And I'm just saying, like, that was when I realized I was a good connector. None of them are divorced, by the way.
Oh, so you have a good track record on top of it.
What are the odds? 50, 55%. I got 14 for 14. Woo!
Right.
Anyway.
Well, I wanted to talk about your event because one of the things you mentioned was the mindset and the things that the chatter in our head, the head trash. You're bringing in some experts, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about the brain tap and the different doctors and the people that help with the head trash.
Mm-hmm. Well, the brain tap is a device that actually, and I'm going to butcher it because I'm not the brain tap person. You'll have to go on my social media. We'll be interviewing them on Friday. But yeah, it's a device that you actually wear like goggles over your eyes that have the light sensory. And then you also wear in your ears, and it's sound lights as you listen to different things. It actually works without the headset. You can sign up and get like their app that has, gosh, last I checked, it had probably over 1,000 on there, the different things. I mean, I think it does languages and affirmations and meditations. It's really amazing. And I love tools. To me, that's just another tool to get me where I want to be. So it's part of self-care, and it's part of personal development, for me. So they are going to come. They'll have a booth where people can come and they can do a little, I think it's like 12-minute. They sit in a, zero gravity like chair and hang out there for 12 minutes. And it's an energizing one. So it'll be a good one for people to do while they're at the event, just to stay sharp and aware. I always, recommend people that are coming to make sure they're hydrating. I don't care if you have to get up while I'm talking and go to the bathroom, please do. I want you there, and I want you at your best. So leave everything behind, leave all that stuff. Come in the room ready to learn, ready to get a whole bunch of knowledge poured into you and content, because we've got lots of great stuff besides, all the great speakers coming. We'll do some networking the first day after the event. We will do an hour and a half where we can just go talk to people that have the booths, and you can learn and meet people better there. We'll take a little longer break, so you can do that as well. And then during lunch, what's different that I do is we stay there and we eat lunch there. And I have the speakers are the table leaders, and probably a couple other experts are coming too that aren't speaking, but they're table leaders. And so you will be at a table with 8 or 10 in there, and you'll mastermind. So you could come with like questions about your business or, about moving forward on something, and ask these people at the table, especially the table leader, because that will be your expert, but there'll be lots of experts in the room. So bring those challenges and come, and you'll get served there. What else? What else, Michelle?
Well, I was thinking about your authors, and I was thinking about, how they work with you beyond the event. So we know to find out more about the event, they go to prosperityevent.com. Is that correct? Prosperityevent.com.
And there's 2 panels. Did I mention the panels?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did I mention the panels when you were saying, because we have
No, you didn't. I want to hear more about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have 2 panels. We have a business panel one day and an authors panel the next day, where I will bring experts up and authors up, and you'll be able to ask them questions, and how they did it and what they did and what they would recommend. So those are like anybody that has any personal or business challenges right now. It's a great event to come to get some answers, not just the answers from the content you'll be getting, but the actual people that'll be in the room. It's not, it's not this 100, 200 people event. It's
right.
Relationship building. The energy is, it's just a container that you can feel safe in. And gosh, there'll be some great relationship building things happening. So,
well, I am going to go to a prosperity event. You're going to have several in the next couple years, and so anyone who is watching today, tomorrow, in the future, will benefit from going to a prosperity event with Holly Porter, the prosperity coach, closing the gap on prosperity. Now I have a bunch of people I think what I want to kind of go out of this call on is really what you believe is the most important thing for people to remember, like from your heart, what you're really wanting people to get out of the event, and why working with you is going to really make a difference. I really want that touch with you.
Well, first what comes to my mind when you ask me that is, I want to say to anyone listening that you need to remember that you matter. You really, really matter. And don't listen to everybody else who is the negative stuff going on in your life. Know you matter. Stand in your power. If you feel in your heart and your soul that you are called to do something, or that is your purpose, or that is your business that you need to start, whatever it is, you know, if you've done your research, your homework, and you know in your heart that's supposed to happen for you, then don't let anybody stop you, including money. It's not all about the money. You can manifest money. Trust me, money is energy. Money is the easiest thing to manifest on the planet when you have the right tools. And coming to prosperity will help give you those tools. So I guess that would be it. Just know you matter.
That you're enough. That's what I'm thinking.
I was going to say that because I always say that. All my books say that. And I'm like, people are probably sick of hearing that. You matter and you are enough. Yes.
You matter. Yeah. You care, you matter. Prosperity comes to those who are ready for it. Yeah. And we started off this call with the intention of people who are ready to claim their prosperity. You're really ready to claim it, then you want to go to a prosperity event so you can look, feel, and be prosperous. So it has been a joy spending time with you, Holly. Always is. And I love the whole idea of being a prosperity coach. And so anyone who is ready to claim prosperity, go to prosperityprofilers.com or prosperityevent.com for the event. And also check out hollyporter.com beyond the event. So this is Michelle Finnegan-Nixon with Events We Like. This is truly going to be one of those events you want to go to, especially if you're feeling like you need to be prosperous. So there you go. So we'll see you at Prosperity, the event. And take care, and God bless everyone. And until we meet again, please send me the events that you like. Signing out. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.